crap, I had a good intro and I forgot about it.
That was an amazing intro. Yeah.
Late now. Now they'll never know.
Now they'll never. I'll remember it next time. Well, I will say this. I'm currently in the middle of writing an angry email to WizKids, which I'll talk about more in a second. But who am I?
I don't know who you are, but I hope that whatever intro you have, you use it as an outro. But we're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay, joined by Christopher, Christian, and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello there.
Every time.
So
yeah, go ahead and I guess since you didn't get to start us off last week, Chris, then go ahead and bitch about WizKids or whatever.
So I'm not going to bitch about WizKids because they haven't done me wrong yet. Okay.
I mean, you literally just said you were typing angry email to them, so.
But you foresee that they're going to, and so you've gone ahead and got angry ahead of time, so you're prepared.
That is true, and the best part is, within the 30 seconds between I said that and we did the intro, I've already gone, oh wow, this system's actually pretty cool. So before we start and begin fully, I will say make sure to follow us on Facebook or fb.com/Grumpy Dungeon Masters. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. If you look for us at Grumpy_DMs, and on Blue Sky at Grumpy_DMs, and our website GrumpyDungeonMasters.com. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube.
We're on the Twitch.
Oh, on the Twitch. I am going to be starting up my live play game on May 17th. It's called Waterdeep: The World Born Dead, and it's the third part of our Waterdeep series. I hope it's going to be good. I'm getting people set up, getting their stories caught up. It takes place 3 months after the Night of Many Serpents Waterdeep campaign that I ran, and completely not taking anything from the Waterdeep Dragon Heist book as a basis now. This is just totally off the realm, but I'm still kind of using the other books as a basis for things, and the players will find that out here soon enough. We're going to start with a prologue to the game, and basically the Order of Magisters in Waterdeep is going to have to save Lariel Silverhand because the players failed to do so in the previous session. So it's going to be interesting, and I want everyone to show up and watch. It'll be on Twitch on, again, May 17th. We're going to go 7 to 11 this time because everyone's getting older. I'm getting older. Today's my birthday. I'm 44.
Oh my god, you're so old.
Young man.
So old.
I asked my wife, what does 44 feel like? She goes, bitch, I'm 45. I was like, I know, but you were 44. How was 44? She went, oh, well, your back hurts more. So
He's not wrong.
Yeah,
no,
accurate.
Yep, it tracks.
Yeah. She and I went up to North Carolina for my weekend, kind of just last minute, and we went to the Festival of Legends, and we walked around, kind of looking at the vendors, watching the shows and whatnot. His name was like Dangerous Dan, and had a show called Dangerously Stupid, where he basically just put his hands on all varying, increasing in size bear traps and mouse traps and whatnot. I assume he cut back on the tension power of the springs, otherwise he would have lost.
Did he put his hand in a gom jabbar?
What is a gom jabbar?
I'm glad you asked.
All right, go watch the movie Dune, then come back to us.
Oh, okay. No, he did not. He put his tongue in a mouse trap, and then he had essentially a fox trap, and then a wolf trap, and that's as far up as he went. And then he did like the nail inside the nostril thing. Did
he eat a sword also?
He had a sword also. Yeah,
I think I've seen this guy at the Atlanta Ren Fair before.
Yeah, he probably had. He actually has a couple Guinness records, and he said he broke 5 and still maintains 3. So it was very entertaining. It was super windy, so like everything kept getting broken and messed up the entire time. His sign kept falling, which was funny. But it was great. And while we were there, everyone was commenting on my wife's hag outfit. And she was a beautiful swamp hag. And I was her charmed bodyguard and servant. It was fun. Lots of stuff. We bought a lot of fantasy type memorabilia and stuff. A wonderful book about fairy types, basically finding out what fairy type you are. And maybe we'll do it in some other future podcast. I'm a heart fairy, by the way.
So it's like Mad Lib for fairies.
Kind of, yeah, but it's like a whole like leather-bound book that he made, and so like it's almost like a monster manual for fairies, but it also lets you figure out like what your fairy type is, what your fairy name is, what you would do on a normal day as being a fairy. So like I said, it's a monster manual for fairies. It's a small bound-up leather tome. My wife actually is a nature fairy, being that she was dressed as a swamp hag, swamp fae. That kind of works. I was a heart fairy. And before you go, what? Heart fairies are like...
They collect hearts, like tooth fairies?
They're the embodiment of like love and generosity and kindness, but also the inverse. So like greed and anger and fear at the same time. So like brownies, redcaps, and leprechauns are all heart fae. So I felt like that was appropriate. I guess I'm a brownie because that's like the embodiment of fear.
You're a redcap.
Redcaps are anger. So that's Kazad.
That's
Josh,
you. You're always mad about something. You're bitching about WizKids not 5 minutes ago.
I said grumpy. I didn't say...
You haven't complained.
I haven't complained yet. Yeah. But anyways, so... After that, we went to the local game store, and being at my birthday and having gotten my tax return, I decided to drop some money, and I purchased the full gargantuan Bahamut at Game Theory in North Carolina. I also bought the Baldur's Gate miniature figures, and I brought a brick of the random boxes. But anyways, I got home, and in my childlike exuberance, I opened the Bahamut. The Bahamut is cool as shit. This fire breath weapon is amazing looking. It's hard to get out his tongue to replace his tongue with a fire weapon, but it's fine. The swarm of canaries is really cool, but there's no Fizzband model in the whole box. And it's not like it fell out. Like where it's supposed to be was taped over, and it was just missing. So I don't have Fizzband. But
that's a problem.
I have the swarm of canaries, the breath weapon, the tongue, and the Bahamut.
Yeah, when you're dropping $250 on a miniature, you better get the full package.
Better get all of it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm not upset by it. I mean, mistakes happen, and I already logged on to the WizKids website and kind of put in my data, and I got to send them a file though of my receipt, and it was texted to me, so I don't know if they're going to accept that. I don't know.
Should be.
So I guess we'll see.
Screenshot it.
Yeah. But the Bahamut figure is much smaller than I anticipated.
Yeah, I was underwhelmed by it too. Comparatively, I mean, I appreciate the fact that they gave you the 7 Canary Gold Dragons and Fizzband with it, but like I have the Ancient Red Dragon from 3rd edition. I have the Gargantuan Tiamat, which is surprisingly smaller than the Bahamut. And I've got the Charlatan Dragon, and I've got the Ancient White Dragon from Realm of the Frostmate. And the Ancient White Dragon is probably the biggest.
It's widest for sure.
It's the widest for sure, because she's kind of like going down like she's like a cat. She's like on the ground, and her wings are outspread, so she's kind of like about to spring on somebody. The Red Dragon's rearing back, and he's very tall, but not as wide. But
the Tiamat is definitely the biggest, but that's mostly because of her wingspan. But yeah, this Bahamut is definitely the Gargantuan Bahamut is definitely smaller than the Tarask, bigger than the Shardalian Dragon. I would say about equal size to the Ancient White Dragon. It's in a different pose, but it's about the same size. It is bigger than the Shardalian Dragon that I have up there with them. And kind of looking at it, it's not a bad figure at all. But the platinum
Better not
paint
pay
that
for
they
the
had.
price.
Yeah, I decided to spoil myself. It was the only gargantuan one that I'm missing. I never know when I'm going to actually use that because, like
When are the PCs going to be fighting that
yeah.
character?
When are the PC ever going to be fighting Bahamut?
All right, you all start at 20th level. You must play an evil character. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's one-shot territory for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess, like, if you're playing, like, Descent into Avernus and, like, you find out Tiamat's is the big bad at the end of the day, and you, like, swear allegiance to her, and she sends you out Bahamut because, like, hell, if they can fight against me and actually think they can win, maybe they can kill Bahamut. But she wouldn't want Bahamut dead. Like, she would almost go out of her way to protect Bahamut in a way.
Well,
She
don't use
hates him.
just ignore Tiamat. Don't use her as the NPC to set this thing off.
Yeah, I don't see how it would ever come around, but I did
mean,
get like
you could easily craft a scenario to make it work.
Yeah, you could easily craft the scenario. I'm just trying to think of a logical team that's been playing for years to earn their way up to level 20 without being
earn your way up and then go fuck with him. I mean,
Yeah.
probably not. No.
Yeah. I mean, one shot's
stupid.
that's easy. Yeah. So, I also, like I said, I also got the Baldur's Gate 3 miniatures, like the pre-sorted box of them all, and a brick of the random blinds. For the random blinds, the figures of note is I got Dora Ragslin, the Hobgoblin. I got Priestess Gut. I got her. I got the Ball Slayer form minifigure. And I got Ketherick Thorn. The only one that I really wanted. I didn't get him on Thara, which I really wanted him in Thara. But I can always buy this more when I see them around.
Yeah, I doubt those are going to sell out immediately. But
Well,
I will say,
you'll be surprised.
WotC, man, you guys just keep fucking dropping the ball. The game came out 3 years ago at this point. Come on.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Hey,
why?
they-
Like, they released the Magic the Gathering cards a year before the game came out. Then they released the miniatures 3 years after. What the?
I want to point out the Magic the Gathering set came out like 2 years before the game.
I mean, no one cared about who the hell Karlach was because no one had ever played her.
Right.
And then when the game comes, like, oh shit, I got to get that card. But they've stopped printing that set, so it's so terrible. Like, come on.
Well, I mean, part of that wasn't really their fault. It was because Larian had to delay the game release because, game releases.
It absolutely is their fault because they could have delayed the stuff themselves.
Yeah, they knew that game was far. I mean, the fucking beta came out and they released the cards shortly after.
Yeah.
We played the beta. It was just like the first half of the first act. We knew it was a long, long ways from finished. So
and Larian was clear about that when they released that beta. They were very clear that, like, hey, we are not close. We are not ready. We just want to start collecting some testing data and feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like WotC knew what was up. Is
corporate Hasbro WotC shenanigans dropping the ball again and again and again and again, and Well, I will probably end up spending more money than I want to on a bunch of Baldur's Gate minis just because I love to have a complete set. But it does anger me that when I was very excited about Baldur's Gate, there were no miniatures available. Hell, there wasn't anything available. You couldn't get any swag, anything whatsoever. Like a year after the game comes out, you can finally, or a year and a half after the game comes out, you can get like the first 1 or 2 pop figures, and then 2 years later, you can finally get Shadowheart and Karlach. They literally just arrived at my house a week ago, and now they released the freaking WizKid minis. Like, come on!
I mean, they just released the final patch for the game with crossplay. Like, I've got multiple friends that I've never played Baldur's Gate 3 with me wanting to play because they can finally play with me.
Right.
And, this is shit that could have been. I won't say it could have been done, but it should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, and I don't know, the excuse of it was going to take us too long to get these things produced, or we just couldn't coordinate it properly. Like, you are a multi-billion-dollar company. You sure as shit could have. You just didn't. And I don't believe anything that anyone would say about an excuse of, we had to sculpt all of the and design all of the models. Bullshit. Larian already did it for you. You literally just have to export it over an STL.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. I don't even know what kind of excuse they could come up with other than corporate shenanigans.
And
that I would believe.
And a weird side tangent to just kind of like add more to their weirdness. WotC is releasing a Spider-Man standard set in Magic the Gathering, and
I don't
it's a pretty big deal. It's Spider-Man and Magic the Gathering.
Is there a Spider-Man movie coming out soon, or will it be 2 years until the next Spider-Man movie comes out?
Probably.
At least
this is better. They're able to secure the rights from Sony to get the cards printed, but they are not able to acquire the rights to use the Spider-Man IP on their Magic the Gathering Online or Magic the Gathering Arena product.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard about this. Like, a lot of the Universes Beyond stuff, they can't get the IP to be
No,
used.
this is the only one. This is the only one so far.
Final Fantasy was the same way.
Final Fantasy is not the same way. Final Fantasy will be on Arena, and so will Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is just Spider-Man. So they have to design a whole set so they can push those cards out on Arena and online while they push the cards out as the physical product. So Spider-Man physical, whatever alternate world they
call
create
it Man-Spider?
I don't know. No one knows. They haven't released any details on that.
See, this is they could have avoided this exact scenario if they had done what I'd been saying they should have done a long fucking time ago. When they released the Godzilla set, Godzilla is just a copy of a card that already exists. Every single one of these IPs should just be copies of cards that exist. But they decided to, go a different route. I think that started with the Warhammer crossover or some other shit around that time. And now you've got Street Fighter, where you can only get them as the Street Fighter cards. Now, Spider-Man is going to cause a lot of problems because you can't get that online. So good luck. Shot yourself in the damn foot, WotC.
Yeah. So it's definitely weird. WizKids, though, however, they're separate. They just own the license to print the models. It does say here that they won't replace any missing miniatures, but that's kind of bullshit. If it's broken, they can replace it, but if it's missing, they can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
That raises stink. That's not cool.
Yeah. So I'm just going to...
welcome to the Let's Bitch About WotC podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, we can let's pivot, boys. Let's pivot. Let's pivot to a completely different game system altogether.
I love where this is going
altogether. So, on Friday, I got the chance to run in person Pirate Borg. Haven't played it. I've played it a couple of times online. I've run it a couple of times online since GaryCon. But I had not run any naval combat scenarios. In the scenario that I ran was called Dead Man's Cove, and it is specifically begins with a naval combat scenario in which you are the captains and officers of 3 pirate ships heading towards a cove to go recover some treasure that the Witch of Wellfleet has directed you to. You've just sacrificed the remainder of your livestock in order to find the exact location of this pirate treasure, and of course you show up there, and there's like a ship of blood that's just literally swarming with skeletons that's guarding the cove, and then starts laying into you guys with cannon fire and begin naval combat. So I really liked how simple and how easy it was to pick up. And the only one person in the group had ever played Pirate Borg before. And that was my brother. He played it at GaryCon, not with us, with another group. And he had never done naval combat before. So we all went through the process of making a character, which again takes 10 to 15 minutes. And that's with people who've never played Pirate Borg before. So that was nice. It was so quick. And then basically they voted on who was going to be the captain. I had a couple of tricorner hats that they had to wear to be declare themselves captains, and they had a sloop, a frigate, and a brigantine to control. I decided not to use the optional wind rules, which I could see how that would add a little bit of extra realism to it, but I just wanted to go with the very the simplest rules possible, since none of us had ever done that before. But it was like I've only done like very limited wargaming, so I mean, but I've also attempted to do, I guess, vehicle and naval combat in D&D in various editions, and it always sucked. And it always just, hey, who can get the fireball off and get on board of the other ship first? That's usually what it is. But like in this scenario, it specifically is like, there's no reason for you to try to take this ship. It is a ship literally made of bone and sewn together sails of human flesh swarming with skeletons. There's nothing on this ship you want. You need to destroy it because it's blocking you from your treasure. So, like, it was, you could still ram it, but there was no point of you actually boarding this ship because you're just going to die if you do. So, the first couple of rounds were relatively slow because everyone's trying to figure out what to do. But here's the kind of the gist of it. So, you have your ship, and whenever we were at GaryCon, I bought a set of cards from the Limithron booth, and they had basically quick stats for each of the different types of ships that were available. And the stats on the ships, they'll just breed out one of the stats. So say the sloop. The sloop has 30 hit points, hull of minus D2. That's essentially soak for armor. Agility +2, speed of 5, which is very fast for a ship. -1 skill, broadside of only a D6, small arms of a D4, ram of a D4, and you need a minimum crew of 3. And it can travel at full speed when close to the wind if you're using the wind rules. So, that's an example of the stats. So as far as how the combat goes, is that you have a crew. Ships, if you have enough crew, have a minimum of 2 crew actions. The captain, whoever's the PC or NPC, I guess, controlling the ship, all he really does is control where the ship goes. So he declares, I'm going this way, and I'm going to move my X number of hexes. So, for example, the sloop can move 5 hexes. When you move, you can pivot. You can turn twice, and there's a 60-degree angle on a hex, so you can move. And as you're moving that first hex, you can pivot 60 degrees. Move again, pivot 60 degrees. So basically, line yourself up for a broadside, because obviously you need to have the broadside of the ship to fire your broadside of cannons. And that was pretty cool. But then you have your officers, which are the other PCs, and they can do things like declare full sail. You want to they're going to basically whip the crew into action to drop the sails and try to move a little bit further. So they make a roll to try to move an extra hex. Another PC could be like, we need to come about so we can broadside. So they can make another roll to come about, and if they manage to do it, then they can turn the ship in order to get in position to broadside. You can then decide, either somebody can decide they want to fire the small arms, which are like the swivel guns and things like that, or you can fire broadsides. Broadsides are really the only thing from what we probably, I think the naval combat lasted 12 rounds, and it was 3 ships versus 1. And the ship that is set for the scenario is actually half hit points of a regular ship of its type, just because it's an example of how naval combat works. But the hull on the enemy ship had like a D6 soak, so like small arms didn't do shit. Like I think maybe 2 points of damage for all the 20 times they fired. Broadsides were where it was at, especially when you managed to land a crit, because it reduces the hull, which reduces the soak. It also just does the most amount of damage in order to make the combat go faster. But the way the combat works is everybody, unlike normal Pirate Borg, where only the PCs roll during melee combat, the DM playing the NPC ship and crew does actually roll for their attacks and for their initiative. So each of the captains rolls a D6 plus or minus the agility of their type of ship for their initiative. and you do this every round. That's all the captains, PCs and NPCs, and then whoever goes first, and you re-roll every round, and essentially the captain goes first and moves, or he communicates with his crew and say, "Hey, fire!" Then I'm going to move and try to pivot and get in a better position, or whatever. But after about 3 rounds, all the players got it. It was very easy to figure out what you're going to do. You're looking clearly at the hex map, whether it's on a VTT or in this case it was in person, and be like, oh, we need to move up 2 more hexes in order to get into broadside range. So let's full sail this, and then we'll come about, and then next round we'll try to get into range. And you guys are a tight pirate crew, sailing within a couple hundred yards of each other. I went ahead and said that you guys can communicate. It makes sense that you guys would have like flags and spotters basically showing who's going which direction or whatever. So what they ended up doing in order to take this thing out, I thought was clever. They took the weakest ship, the sloop, which was also the fastest ship, and rammed the enemy ship with the sloop. So they rammed the enemy ship with the sloop because you do a base ram damage of a d6 with the sloop, but you do +1 ram damage for each hex you move before you hit the other ship. So they started 6 away, did full sail, and then did a d6 +6, which basically, even with the ship's hull resistance, was enough to really do a shitload of damage. And then as the enemy ships trying to get unstuck, the other 2 ships basically moved up onto the other opposite sides of it and just broadsided the shit out of it before it could get away. And it took maybe 45 minutes for the entirety of the combat, but it just went very smoothly. There weren't really any questions. The only thing that anybody did that was questionable was one person's like, "Oh, I'm a sharpshooter and we're within 50 yards now. Can I see like the captain? Can I fire at him?" I'm like, yeah, sure, I guess." So I looked at the stats of like a skeletal captain, and he had an ability to terrorize somebody who fires at him, and it's like, yeah, make a spirit test. It's like, it's a 2. You're terrorized for 3 rounds. What does that mean? It's like you're paralyzed. You can't do anything. Well, shit. So that particular captain managed to was unable to have his bosun or his first mate do anything for the next 2 rounds, but doesn't really matter. You technically still have like an NPC pirate crew that's doing things, and you always get a minimum of 2 crew actions, even if there's no PCs aboard other than the captain. So, but the difference is that PCs add their stat bonuses to whatever your action is, which I thought was very cool, because even though that the first mate was paralyzed with fear, the rest of his crew continued to fire broadsides with just their base skill level, but it's not his presence bonus or anything like that. But I thought it was very slick. I thought it was very cool. I also picked up Limithron's 5e naval combat rules, which are basically a much more complicated version of this, because it's 5e, and of course it has to be. Like, you have to actually declare the particular positions of the different officers. Like a bosun can increase morale, and the different the first mate can do this thing or that thing, and like, I flipped through it, but otherwise, like, it boils down to kind of the same thing. But the action stations, quote unquote, in 5e are captain, pilot, lookout, bosun, gunner, carpenter, and so on. And from what I can tell, though, it mostly just kind of enhances a d20 roll, because instead of rolling a d6 for initiative, you roll a d20 for initiative. Instead of adding your agility, you add your dexterity. But the stats for the cards are very, very similar. And one other thing that I forgot to mention is that there's a conversion as far as damage. I mean, people who have ever played any sort of war game, or hell, even going back to like Robotech or Rifts or something like that. Like, when you have like a big, huge vehicle and you're trying to shoot at it with a pea shooter, it doesn't do shit for damage, right? So the simple conversion is like, if you have just your average ass musket firing at a frigate, first off, he's going to be able to soak that. Second off, the damage scaling is 1 to 5. So, like, even if you maximize your damage on a musket, which I think is 16, you would do a maximum of 3 damage, which he's most likely going to soak because he's got a hull of a d6. Conversely, if you fire a fucking cannon at a skeleton, it does a d8 times 5. So, I mean, because that's the thing that it seems to be something that might be much more likely. Like you're raiding a fort, or you're firing at somebody who's particularly, like, using a cannon up in a fort or something like that, or on the beach, and you just blast them with a cannon.
Yep.
But the rest of the scenario went great. Essentially, it's just like this grotto that it's filled with treasure, and of course, once you touch any of the treasure, all of the NPC crew, all these skeletons come alive and try to kill you. It worked out really well. I did add in the Crocaroach. It nearly got somebody. A lot of devil's luck coins were used, but they managed to come out unscathed. Well, not unscathed. They managed to come out alive. Though one did die later, partially because one of the random rituals that the sorcerer had allowed him to summon a D6 skeletons, like 5 hit point skeletons. So basically, they doubled their crew by just like summoning other skeletons to fight with them, which worked really well for them until the sorcerer died and all the skeletons then turned back to just their component parts. But yeah, they managed to escape, and it was a lot of fun.
So the skeletons don't get to run free if the caster dies?
It's OSR, man. It was real vague, and I was like, nah.
Okay.
They're back to their component parts at this point. It was vague enough that, like, it basically said you summon a D6 skeleton, see page 95, and they're under your command. And like, that was as vague as it was. That was as detailed as it was, and I was like, yeah, sure, you can give them a command, and unless it's something other than just guard me, you've got to actually tell them what to do every round, because they can't think on their own. They're skeletons. Yep. Like, if you just have them guard you, yes, you can do other shit, but otherwise, yeah, you've got 5 dudes you got to tell what to do.
Jay, do you remember when I went to Calanthea and we were monstering at the point in time, and we were skeletons raised by the hag, or the crone, I guess? Or no, it wasn't crone, it was one of her lackeys. And the lackey goes, follow her. And then me, you, and some other kid just started marching behind the crone the entire time. That's the only order we were given.
That was our commands.
Yep.
Skeletons are not bright, man. Like undead, whatever you told them to do, they're going to do it to their best of their ability. And if that is just follow, well, that's it. That's all they're going to do.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
As far as Pirate Borg goes, I mean, I love Pirate Borg, as I've stated a couple of times at this point, but I had never done the naval combat. It's not something I would do every time, but it is one of those things where, like, there's a couple of times in various tables that, a Tempest blows in and then a ghost ship shows up and you got to fight this ghost ship. Like, I wouldn't mind very quickly swapping to naval combat in order to finish something up like that. That'd be fine with me. And probably plan a couple of scenarios where you're trying to escape, like, the British that you just stole a whole bunch of tea and ash from, or something like that. That'd be great. But yeah, it was good, and it was one of those things where I wish when we played Ghost of the Saltmarsh we had these rules.
Yeah,
I wish we did.
Yeah,
the rules seem clean. They seem very simple to understand.
Yeah,
it's not trying to do anything too fucking crazy. You're not having to add a million modifiers.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I would much rather use the Pirate Borg rules than the 5e naval combat rules, which
don't exist.
Well, they do. Well, even the ones that Lutheran created, same guy. It's just
I think he created those before he wrote Pirate Borg. Yeah,
he did, but because it's 5e, it has all the complications of sometimes it's like of skill checks, and it just feels like there's a lot of dice rolls, because
a lot of unnecessary dice rolls. Yeah, unnecessary dice rolls.
It's like, I'm a sailor. Like, all right, first to tie that rope, make a check. Like, I'm a sailor. Shouldn't I just know how to tie a rope? Like, that's kind of like basic principles of. Yeah,
I love when you're rolling up the random backgrounds for Pirate Borg, like 1 through 60. You're a sailor. Your life is the sea. So it's like, yes, you can scale rigging. You can do anything a sailor should be able to know how to do. You don't have to roll anything. Just do it.
Yeah, that's one of the kind of the principles of old school stuff, is the only time you should be rolling for basic stuff that you should know how to do is if there is a time crunch, or there is some sort of interesting consequence for failure, not just like, well, the rope slips. Well, you're a guy that should know how to tie a rope. Now, if you're trying to tie a rope while you're dodging a skeleton swinging a sword at you, then you make the check, right? Because you're not under normal circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the things.
Oh, good.
No, you go ahead.
Completely unrelated, but it was kind of a weekend of being able to actually play some games. My parents ended up taking the little one for the weekend, so we played Pirate Borg on Friday. Then Saturday we played our long-standing Greyhawk game with our friend Steve, and we are going through the Tower of Zagig in Castle Greyhawk, and we got to the very bottom, and we find like the tomb of Zagig and don't fuck with him, and just looted everything else in the place with some ridiculous magic items, which are just converted over from first edition. But we ended up going to like a room nearby Zagig's tomb. And this is as written in the original module, and it's got 5 symbols that are slightly raised on different color tiles than the rest of the room. And the first one is a star. Then there is a what appears to be kind of like shoulders shrugging, a crescent moon, and a what was it? Crap, I can't remember now. Something that that was at the very end that looked like it was quote unquote evil magic, whatever the symbol might be for that. And we're like, okay, it's clearly some sort of a puzzle. So those things are raised. We're gonna have to throw something, or go step on one of those things in order to get through this. In order to get to maybe a vault, or I don't know what. So we're like, we're intrigued. We're like, sure, we'll mess around with this. Why not? So, we go get a barrel full of like wine or something like that, and then throw it on it. Nothing. Like, okay, let's send the familiar on top of it. Nope, nothing. We're like, okay. The fighter's like, fuck it. I'm gonna go stand on that one over there with like the shrugging shoulders. And he goes and stands on it. He has an 8 intelligence already, and his intelligence drops a D4 plus 1, which of course he rolls a 4.
Of course.
So he just now has a 3 intelligence and can't speak, and is dumber than your average Labrador. And yes, so we asked him, like, so does he recognize people? Does he know his own names? Like, that's about the limit of his knowledge. Yes. We're like, here, buddy, come on over here. And I'm like, and we're looking at the clerics like, can you like greater restoration him? Will that work? Or like, maybe, let's try. So great restoration, and it comes back, and he's like, well, yeah, I stepped on that, and it didn't do anything. Oh well. We're like, yeah, it did something, buddy. You were drooling for about 10 minutes. And then the next person goes, and we're like, okay, well, it did something, and it was negative, so maybe the next thing's positive. Next person goes, it's the paladin. And the paladin's lawful good, and he steps on the balance scales. And then he's suddenly chaotic evil. But we don't know that, and there is no visible effect other than somebody had to detect magic up, and there's a flash of magic that happens, and you can't tell what it is. And he, as of like immediately, we didn't see any difference. We're like, okay. Then the druid goes and steps on the crescent moon because we're like, okay, it could be a shape changing thing. Let's see what that is. And she gets the equivalent of a ring of 3 wishes. She rolls to 2. She gets 2 wishes that she can cast ever. And it's like, okay, that's awesome. Then the wizard's like, well, I don't want to go step on the evil magic one because I'm not an evil mage, and I don't want to do that one. So she goes and jumps on the star, and she just gains +2 intelligence as she read a Tome of Understanding.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm like, and the cleric's like, fuck y'all, I'm not standing on any of these things. I am a cleric of life, and this is stupid, and there's no reason for us to be doing this. And I'm just like, I'm playing the rogue. I'm like, does that mean I have to go step on the last one? It's like, and everyone's like, yeah. And the cleric's like, don't fucking do it. I'm like, I'm going to fucking do it. And I like, you know what? Turn to the DM, like, you know what? I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm definitely going to actually acrobatically somersault over there and be like, ta-da! And DM looks at me and it's like, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, at this point, I'm like, yeah, absolutely going to do it because now you're telling me that I shouldn't do it and I've already committed.
Yeah, I'm already in.
So
let's do it.
So no save in a very Gygaxian manner. I land on the thing, which then depresses, and my soul is ripped from my body and taken somewhere completely else. Body's still alive though, somewhere between a trap the soul magic jar and like a demi-lich stealing your soul. so they're like, oh fuck, and at first they're like panic, like, oh shit, we'll try to resurrect him, and then they look at it, it's like, fuck, they can't restore a soul. The body, he's not even dead yet. And then they're like, okay, wait a minute, we just have 2 wishes, we can just wish him back. And then the wizard's like, can you just ask your goddess, to the cleric, just like divine intervention him back? And he's like, I could try. It's never worked before, but sure. And sure as shit, he rolls a natural 12, and he's 12th level.
Of course.
So everyone's celebrating. The DM like closes his papers, like, I regret to inform you that, as is written in this book, even a wish spell will not bring the character's soul back to his body, but it will tell you the location of where it is stored. And I'm like, I'm making a new character. And
that's great.
Instead of making a new character, he's like, just hold on a second. So he tells where the soul is. It's at the bottom of the other tower we haven't explored yet, the Tower of Power, the Tower of Magic of Castle Greyhawk. And it's like, yeah, the body's still alive, so you get it back to Greyhawk, store the body of the rogue at the Temple of Alona, and teleport back. Sure. So they speed run the last hour of game as I'm just dicking around on my phone to try to get to the bottom of the tower to try to save my character. And in the meantime, the now chaotic evil paladin, both of the paladin and the fighter have like a 23 strength, so they're dragging out these massive chests of money because the cleric has to do a super good deed, so he's donating like 150,000 silver pieces to the poor of Greyhawk because he's got the Book of Exalted Deeds and has to do a good deed every 10 days. And the paladin intentionally trips the fighter with like carrying like 2 tons of fucking silver. So he's trying to like play it off like it was an accident, but it rolls a natural 1 on it. And then the fighter rolls a natural 1 to not like be seriously injured by it. But he gets fucking maimed, like crushes his foot sort of maimed, like, needs to regenerate sort of maimed. And then the paladin's like, oh yeah, I have really high performance and charisma. I'm gonna play it off like it was a complete accident. And the druid actually saw through his bullshit and it's like, fuck did he do that for? He's like, it was an accident. No, it wasn't. I fucking saw you. You fucking tripped him. And now they're like very suspicious of the now chaotic evil paladin who's definitely gonna fuck us over.
Oh my god!
I swear to God, this entire room, like the entire room, like after I had my soul stolen, I was like, Jesus Christ, Steve, this is like a deck of many things. Like, it's funny you should mention that. The name of this room is the room of many things. I'm like, God damn it ruins every fucking game.
It does. If it's used, it fucks up every game. I've
every
never
game.
Seen one.
It never ceases to amaze me. But
well, it sounds ruined to me. It sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that kind of sucks is that unless they find an NPC or summon some sort of monster for me to play, I'll just be fucking around on my phone for the first half of next game at the very least. Which wouldn't be a big deal if I gamed every week with these people, but it's once a month tops.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
that's no fun.
Yeah, but no regrets. It's what my character would do.
What my character would do. Just have them gate
last
in.
Words.
Yeah, have them gate in something for you and just play it for a while.
A fire elemental.
Yeah, but
you'll be fine.
The words "what my character would do" is usually used in the realm of justifying why you're an asshole. What my character would do is like, no, I will acrobatically jump on this thing and take the risk because nobody else wants to do it. Is definitely what my character would do.
Yeah. I mean, it's the what my character would do trope is well known as a license to be a dick.
Yeah, that's just being a dick for no reason. Yeah,
but it's not always. It's not always the case.
Yeah.
No. Not always, just usually.
Usually, yeah.
But props to the rest of my party because they didn't want to just be like, well, he's gone, bye bye, and move along. Because I've definitely played with parties like that. It's like when, like, Christian, do you remember when Nate's character died in Undermountain? And you guys clearly had the means to bring him back, and everyone's like, well, I guess we're gonna bury him here.
Well, no. Well, Whitney and I knew that we had the means to, and we deliberately did not because she was playing a paladin and he was acting evil. And she was like, I am not going to help facilitate the resurrection of an evil wizard who just killed innocent people on purpose.
Yeah, what did he do? Evard's Black Tentacles, a bunch of fucking enslaved dwarves or something like that.
There was a bunch of people we were trying to rescue that were chained to something, and some of the Dwergar were around those people, and so he was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do Black Tentacles over there, and you're like, that's going to hit all these people that are chained up and have no chance. And he's like, that's okay, I do it anyways.
It's like okie doke.
Like that's the whole point. We were there. We were trying to save those
Yeah.
people. Like that was the objective of us being there. And he's just like, ah.
Oh, that's funny. It's funny you would mention Evard's Black Tentacles. That's kind of the thing I wanted to talk about tonight.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm done. Go ahead.
Yeah, good transition.
Yeah, it worked out oddly enough. So I'm playing a character in one of the campaigns. I'm a wizard, and sort of the thing I like to do with that wizard is just cast all these spells that aren't normally cast. Now, Evard's Black Tentacles isn't necessarily one of those. Like people do cast it, but I wanted to actually take a look at the changes of that spell from the early editions to the current editions.
Okay.
One, I had to look up who the hell Evard is because I know a lot of the 5e spells, they've taken away the names of some of the casters, but apparently with 5e they didn't change Evard. My assumption was that Evard was actually just one of the TSR employees' characters, but apparently not. It was just an NPC that was created at some point. I have no idea exactly who made him.
I believe it was Gygax, because he was an enemy of Mordenkainen, and actually in our Greyhawk campaign we have actually met Evard, and the wizard in our party had him sign her Evard's Black Tentacles page for spellbook.
Fuck yeah! Now that's cool.
That is cool.
Getting fan signatures and in game.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh my god, anyway, you're like my favorite wizard of all time. Can I get your
admittedly, she used the shit out of that spell. Like as soon as she got that, we used it all the time.
I'm actually going to work here in sort of backwards order. I've looked at the 5e and 5.5 stuff. And the 5e and 5.5 actually are different from each other. That was one of the spells that got changed.
Okay.
And it's the only thing that's really different between the two spells is in 5.5 you actually have to make a strength saving throw, and 5e it's a dex save. I guess I should probably kind of read what the spell does, so anyone who doesn't fucking know. It's 90 feet is the range, concentration up to a minute. Squirming ebony tentacles fill a 20-foot square on ground that you can see within range. For the duration, those tentacles turn the ground in that area into difficult terrain. Each creature in that area makes a strength saving throw. On a failed save, it takes 3d6 bludgeoning damage, and it has the restrained condition. And restrained actually fucking sucks.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. A creature also makes that save if it enters the area or ends its turn there. Creature only makes that save once per turn. A restrained creature can take an action to make a strength athletics check against your spell save DC to end the condition. So that's the 5.5 version. The 5e version is very similar, except as I said, dexterity. The third edition one isn't a whole lot different. Let's see. Conjures the number of tentacles 10 feet long. It's a 20-foot radius spread, so it's actually a much larger area. It's about twice the size, and duration 1 round per level. So 4th level spell, so you'd have to be 7th level wizard, so it's going to last at least 7 rounds. Each creature in the area of the check must make a grapple check opposed by the grapple check of the tentacles. But the biggest things with this is that it only deals 1d6 plus 4 points of damage compared to the 3d6 for 5e. It's been a while since I played 5e, but I don't remember like the hit point differential between 5e to 3rd edition being so large. Like 3d6 is a little bit of damage, 1d6 is almost nothing. Am I sort of mistaken in that, or is this spell in 3rd edition just sort of shit?
I think it was kind of crappy. I think the main use of it in 3rd edition was definitely not dealing damage, but the fact that it would
block people down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, even in 3rd edition, you still had to use your. I think you had to use like a standard action or something to try to escape it. So
yeah, it took your action to try to get it. So it was there to be crowd control. I think still is generally.
Yeah. Now, I don't have the 1st edition or the 4th edition stuff. If somebody really wants to look them up, they can. I doubt that things change too much between 2nd and 1st, but I'll read the.
It came out in Unearthed Arcana. So while you're reading out 2nd, I'll look that up.
Okay. Oh shit! I had the Unearthed Arcana. I would have grabbed it if I'd realized that. But the 2nd edition one is completely fucking different from the other ones I've read. So range is 30 yards. Duration is an hour per level. So this thing lasts a long fucking time. Casting time is 1 round. The area of effect is 30 square feet per level. And it's a 4th level spell. So minimum, whatever 7 times 30 is. If you're a 10th level, it's 300 square feet. If you're 20th level, you're looking at 600 square feet, which is just a massive, massive area this thing covers.
Yeah.
Yep.
The spell creates many rubbery black tentacles in the area of effect. These waving members seem to spring forth from the earth floor or whatever surface is underfoot, including water. Each tentacle is 10 feet long, armor class 4, which for 5e people, that's roughly an AC 15 or so.
Yeah.
And requires as many points of damage to destroy as the level of the wizard who casts this spell. There are 1d4 such tentacles, plus 1 per experience level of the caster. So if this is a 20th level wizard, they each have 20 hit points, and there's could be as many as 24 of them. Any creature within range of the writhing tentacles is subject to attack as determined by the DM. The target of the tentacle attack must roll a save versus spell. If this succeeds, the subject suffers 1d4 damage from contact with the tentacle, and then the tentacle is destroyed. Failure to save indicates that the damage inflicted is 2d4 points. The member is wrapped around its subject, and damage will be 3d4 points on the 2nd and succeeding rounds. Since these tentacles have no intelligence to guide them, there's a possibility they entwine any object, a tree, post, pillar, even the wizard himself, or continue to squeeze a dead opponent. Grasping a hold established by the tentacle remains until the tentacle is destroyed by some form of attack or until it disappears at the end of the spell's duration. Not massive damage either on really any of these is not really a lot of damage. This one, the save is sort of unclear. You have to make the saving throw the first time, and then if it fails it just says 2d4, then 3d4 on the 2nd and succeeding rounds. So I would assume you just have to make a save every round, and every time you fail it, you just start taking the 2d4, then the 3d4. But it's not perfectly clear.
Or maybe or I think that's one of the things they leave to that means that's the DM's decision as to how that. What do you keep making saves, or are you just stuck because you failed that save and now you have to wait for somebody else to hack you out of it?
Yeah, and that's also possible. It's intentionally unclear.
Yeah. So this in 2nd edition, just because I played a lot of 2nd edition.
Same. Just been a while.
That's kind of this is not generally a spell you cast in combat. It's usually something you use as because in 2nd edition, you like earlier editions, once you get to a certain level, you gather followers and get a stronghold. It's something you use as like a defensive measure, or if you might cast it if you're going to try to lure some people into like attacking you, and you want to prepare the ground ahead of time, that kind of thing. It's usually not in the middle of combat.
Yeah,
because that full round casting time in older editions meant that You had to literally let that. It didn't go off until if you decided to start casting it, that meant it wasn't going to go off until your next turn, and you couldn't move or do anything else. You were just standing there, and all it took for anyone to interrupt you is like push you over or do a single point of damage.
Any damage.
And you lose the spell. So that was always a tough thing to get off in the middle of a combat, unless you were well in the back and you were going to cast it. I remember we used it in a game once to we were trying to run away from things, and we had the kind of the fighter stand at the front and hold off some things for the wizard to cast that, so people could run. Because knowing the enemies would have to cross through that, and it would be enough of a hindrance that we could probably get away and hide.
Yeah, that's actually kind of how I got on the Evard's Black Tentacles this weekend with that wizard character I was talking about. I ended up casting Sleet Storm to stop things from chasing us. And then I started flipping through, looking at other spells. And I was like, oh, Evard's does more or less the same thing. But in 5e, it's used very much as a combat spell. I'm on page 157 of the 2nd edition manual, and just looking, like, it has 1 round for Evard's Black Tentacles. And if somebody who's never played 2nd ed sees that, they're going to be like, oh, it's just, you just do it. It's a turn. No, that's not how that worked. 1 round was you start on your initiative, and it cast on your next initiative.
Yep.
I find it very interesting. I'm looking at side by side. I'm looking at the PHB 2nd edition version of Evard's Black Tentacles and the Unearthed Arcana 1st edition ADD of it, and the difference between them is interesting. So, range, as we understand it from visiting Gygax's house, range in 1st edition, range 3 inches. 3 inches on Gygax's table is 15 feet, which is weird to me, first off. Second, casting, and if you flip over to the 2nd edition, of course, you're bouncing between fucking feet and yards, but it says 30 yards, so 90 feet is the range for Evard's Black Tentacles 2nd edition. Casting time in 2nd edition, as Jay mentioned, is one round, full round.
30 yards, though, if you were doing it in miniatures, because it was still sort of based off that, or basic movement, your movement was 120 yards, aka 12 inches. So 30 yards would be 3 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's how that worked. It was.
Yeah, because your older 2nd edition, your movement was 12.
Each inch was 10 yards, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing here. So then we go to the casting time. Casting time, you said it was 1 round in 2nd edition. 1st edition is 8 segments. Duration of an hour level in 2nd edition. Back in 1st edition, it's 1 round a level. So it very much seems to be like a spell that you would cast in combat. Area of Effect, I think you guys are overestimating how big that is, because
it's 600 square feet.
No, 30 square feet a level. If you're 9th level, you're doing 270 square feet. You know how big that is? 16 feet by 16 feet.
Yeah.
It's a bedroom. It's the size of 5th edition Black Tentacles.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, it's fair.
Like if you're 20th level, sure. I mean, 30 by 30 is still huge, but I mean, the difference is between the editions is instead of being a radius effect, you can make this into a line or like a crescent.
Right. Yeah.
You have your 14 black tentacles blocking the way, but I think part of the reason, like I played a lot of 1st edition, 2nd edition when I was a kid. I never ever saw anybody cast this, probably because it's complicated as written, because you have to keep track of the hit points of each tentacle. You have to keep track of where the tentacles are. You have to fizz rep on a battle map where the tentacles are and how you laid it out. The fact that you have the ability to make it not just a circle, it could be a square, it could be a hallway, it could be a crescent, it could be an X. Who the hell knows? It's whatever you want it to be, so long as you're doing basically, 1 square per one square on the battle map per level.
It's also 4th level, so it's competing with a lot of other really powerful spells like Stone Skin, like Ice Storm.
I would say more often you encountered this as adventurers protecting some area of a dungeon or wizard's tower that you were exploring than you cast it yourself. Though I did see, you might use it as something because also in second edition you could like permanency spells and stuff, and
Right.
so
Yeah,
we definitely
yeah.
had somebody that got high enough level in one of the games I ran to build a wizard's tower and attract some apprentices, and he used this as a defensive spell for his wizard tower. He put eventually a permanent Evard's black tentacle around an area, part of it as a defensive measure, as like a moat basically around his wizard's tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, being able to permanency spells is something I do miss from 5e.
But usually,
you can still do it in 5e.
When we encountered a spell like this, usually it was as you were adventurers and you would encounter this somewhere and have to figure out, are you going to go through it? Do you want to go around it? Like, what are you going to do about running into this as an adventurer?
I feel like a 5th or 7th level adventurer running into this, you're more likely to just be like, okay, I tried to dispel magic it. I feel like that's what would be my gut reaction to whatever the hell this is. If I could recognize it as, at least as a spell. If otherwise, like if it's something that the fighter can hack at, hack at the tentacles, I guess. But yeah.
I mean, we used the great effect when we were playing Solasta.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in 5th edition, like it can definitely be used to block. Like if you're dungeon crawling, it's fantastic.
Jay, did you go over the difference between the 5e and the 5.5?
I did, yeah, with the strength save versus deck save.
Yeah, I was muted for some reason, so I couldn't make comments on things.
Okay.
Is that intentional? Because there was a whole bunch of errata that just came out. Which
I think that's intentional.
I guess we should we touch on that?
Yeah,
we
errata.
Download the errata because some of the stuff that we definitely pointed out got errated.
Yeah.
Like minor or this conjure minor elementals.
Conjure minor elementals. Yeah. So yeah, PHB. Let's pull this bad boy up. So Goliath traits. Apparently, in Goliath traits, powerful build trait. You have advantage on any saving throw. Is now you have advantage on any ability check. I think that was always intentional. Feats.
Well, real quick before we delve into the details, let's mention as part of it. Remember, they did actually follow through on releasing the 5.2 SRD into the Creative Commons.
They did.
Yay!
So there is the new 5th edition rule set, the new 5.5e whatever, is in the Creative Commons for third party and anyone else that wants to use it, free, forever, untouchable by wizards.
Cool.
Yeah, that was Crawford's last act as he was being thrown out the door.
Yeah, as he is jumping into the lifeboat to get out.
All right, go through the errata.
Speed, Grappler, and the Fast Wrestler benefit. Your speed isn't halved when you move, just now you don't have to spend extra movement to move. Poisoner and the Brew of Poison benefit 4th sentence until you hit with the poison weapon is now until you deal damage with the poison weapon, which is a good clarification. That way you're not wasting one of your few poisons whenever you miss. Telekinetic in the minor telekinesis benefit sentence, its range is increased by 30 feet. It's now its range and distance it can be away from you are both increased by 30 feet. Armor table, in the subheading for the shield category, shield is now shield utilize action to don or doff.
Oh, what the fuck?
What?
What?
It's someone who uses shields in LARPs and whatnot. And when I was out in the festival, some guy had these really amazing, actual good punch shields. Like actual real can stand up to combat punch shields. It does not take 6 seconds to equip or unequip a shield. You could throw it off in an instant, and you can pick it up in an instant. What the hell?
I'm going to go ahead and say no, that's not true, because you're not taking your entire 6 seconds of a combat round. As a fighter who's 11th level Waples, you're attacking 3 times, you're donning your shield, you're then dropping a weapon and drawing another one. That's what you're doing in that 6 seconds. That's a
but now it's
action, dude.
No, because drawing your weapon is not an action. It's a free action. So why isn't picking up a shield? Why isn't wearing a shield?
Because shield isn't a weapon.
Okay.
I agree with this one here.
No, it doesn't take 6 seconds to put on a shield.
Conveniently enough,
It's not saying it takes 6 seconds, man.
Yeah, it does. It says it takes a utilize action. That's a full action.
Is that all you can do? Is that all you can do in a round?
Yes.
You cannot do a bonus action. Can you not do a reaction? Can you not move?
You can't do your 3 attacks.
Yeah, the way
Action surge.
Yeah, if it's going to take your entire turn,
it takes your entire turn.
Minus movement and bonus. If it's taking your entire action to drop a shield,
not drop a shield.
No, dawn or
doff.
Yeah, that's because I've used shields before too. It takes half a second. You can literally just drop the goddamn thing.
I also have used a shield extensively, and I will say that it is strapped to your arm. Absolutely cannot. You can maybe sling it off and then not pick it back up, but picking it back up and actually putting it on correctly. No, you can grab the handle and maybe get it up to parry something, but no way.
If you have a punch shield, it's not strapped to your arm. You're just grabbing a pole.
A punch shield?
That's a one hand. It doesn't strap to the wrist. It's literally just held by your hand.
Yeah, that's more like not a shield that exists in current D&D. That's like a buckler, or even though some of them are wider, they're not as as good as a shield that you strap in.
No, the punch shield I did was 36 inches. It was massive. It was amazing.
But just by
was it made out of steel and wood?
It would have been.
Or was it made out of fucking? Was it made out of fucking plastic?
It was made out of steel and
foam.
Wood. It was made out of steel and wood.
I mean, also, have you seen how big Waples is?
Yeah, I have.
I'm
gonna continue to argue with you about this one.
No. I mean, I've seen real medieval shields. They're just a big metal strap that just doesn't strap down to your arm and lock on. It's not a Spartan shield.
Let's move on.
So you realize they're doing this because they did this because people are weapon juggling and then throwing a fucking shield on at the end, right?
Yeah, and I won't fucking let them do that. But I don't need.
But by the rules, they were allowed to do that. So everybody who's running Adventures League and shit, other than I guess you, apparently was. So you're swinging a fucking maul, you're knocking somebody prone, you're getting an extra attack from your bonus action, and then you're dropping all that shit and grabbing a shield too? Bullshit.
No, that's way too much. It's way too many free actions.
It is way too much.
One free action. So you get the don it or doff it. You get to pull out the dagger or stow the dagger.
Playing Pathfinder or D&D?
D&D.
I mean, even in D&D, you're only supposed to get one free action. So.
You get one free action. And part of that, in fact, it's a part of your move action, technically. So, I don't know.
Well, anyways, we're going to move on to spells. Animal shapes. The last paragraphs have been replaced with the following. The target gains a number of temporary hit points equal to the hit points to the first form into which it shapeshifts. These temporary hit points vanish if any remain when the spell ends. The transformation lasts for the duration or until the target ends it as a bonus action, which is good. Glad that's a clarification. Here's the big ones. Conjure Elemental in the using a higher level spell slot subsection. 2d8 is now 1d8. Conjure Fey in using a higher level spell slot subsection. 2d12 is now a d12. Conjure Minor Elementals. 2d8 becomes a d8. Conjure Woodland Beings using a higher level spell slot. Level above 5 is now level above 4. So yeah, they updated all of those conjure whatevers to clearly reduce the damage because they were stupid.
Yeah, doing it at the level it was intended was probably fine, but when you upcast it's when it became a problem.
Yep.
I still don't like any of them. I like the new summon spells. I think those are great. I think they should have just dropped the conjure spells entirely and just replaced them with the newer summon ones. The fact that they were like, we got to find something to do with these. No, you didn't. You could just replace them. Like, you didn't need to find another weird thing to do with them.
How about you actually conjure elementals instead of
or if they wanted to do
damage?
Because you have you have summon elemental now, which which has the stat block included with it, which I do like, and I do like the kind of new summon spells better than the old conjure spells. But if they wanted to create them instead of just this weird. They just needed to make them more limited and maybe like you summon this one thing. Like Conjure Elemental was always fine. That was never a problem because you're just summoning one CR5 elemental. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
that made sense. But it was the other ones that got abused that bogged down combat more than 5th edition combat is already bogged down. When you had your druids like, cool, I summoned 45 wolves. You're like, great.
Yeah.
That's fun for everyone at the table. Like, everyone was already like checking out, playing on their phones in between turns because it's going to be 30 minutes after they swing their sword 3 times before they get to go again.
Yep.
Now that the druid's turn is going to take literally an hour as he like moves all his stupid summons around the field, or the stupid thing where they would summon the pixies and then the pixies like cast polymorph on everybody, and then
we had a druid who used to use the summon spells in that manner, but they were also of the understanding because the game master had talked to them that you can do this. All of them must move in unison. All of them must attack a single target. Which that target's going to get a lot of fucking damage coming at it, but at least it's not taking an hour and a half for one turn.
Yeah. In the one game I'm playing now, we had somebody that was going to take some of those. And he's like, no, I'm just, now that the new summon ones came out, he's like, those old ones are gone. You can only use the new ones because he already had like nixed and for as far as like player options, like no pet classes basically, because it always takes too long.
Yeah.
Every time you have a Beastmaster Ranger, they take forever figuring out what am I doing, then what is my animal doing, and so he's just like, nah, we're not doing that because we've got 8 players in our game. That's already plenty of people.
Yeah.
The last thing you need is somebody summoning a bunch of nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
With that many players, I think you have to keep a clock out there. You get 1 minute for your turn. Go.
We kind of do that, and everybody's pretty good about that. But even with that, it still takes a long time. So that's why it's just like, no summoning crap. It takes too long. It annoys everybody, and all it does is slow down things.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely don't let them. I let them go on the same player's turn, and if they forget about them, they forget about them. Like even spiritual weapon bog downs the game. Because they always forget. They're like, "Oh shit, spiritual weapon!" At the very end, and here's another minute and a half of rolling dice.
Just to go back to making Waples angry again here.
Oh god!
I pulled out my 2014 D&D 5e.
Yes, I know it's the same way in there too.
Oh, it doesn't say utilize actions though. It just says one action.
Yeah, it's one action. Yeah, that's the problem.
That's not a problem.
Yes, it is because you only get one action.
You know what's really cool? You know what's really cool is you get the +2 AC from putting that on your arm, dude. It's pretty sweet.
It's bullshit.
So let me ask you this: how many times has that ever come up in your game where you actually need to spend the time to put on your shield? Because most of the time in any games I've run, a shield fighter's walking around with a fucking shield strapped to his arm, and there's never any question about where his shield is. Ain't nobody just hanging out with a shield on his back.
Because I'm going to go off on a tangent. It's going to take a couple minutes.
No. See, Dan, this is your fault. You did this.
So if you're traveling
there, I get it.
If you're traveling long distance as a knight,
sure.
not on horseback, or let's say a soldier, not on horseback, you strap your shield around your body to your back, okay? And yes, in that case, when you're getting attacked, oh shit, I got to pull out my sword and get my shield off my back onto my arm. That dawn of that weapon and that shield at that point in time should take an action, the full round to get that ready. You're not walking down the road with your sword out and your shield out like we all are in the fantasy setting. So that's why the rule makes no sense. Because we're always assumed to be battle ready.
Hold a second. Let's go back to the fact that you were trying to use the fact that you can whip out a shield and throw it off in a split second in a LARP. How many times you run around with a shield and you're just keeping it on your back? Like, if you know there's possible danger around, how many times running around on a campsite in a LARP? No, because I've done this before. Christian's seen me.
Yeah,
I always had my fucking shield on my arm. Always. I'm sitting down on a bench. Shield's on my arm. I'm hanging out. No combat to be found. Shield is on my arm. You know why? Because it's uncomfortable as fuck on my back. I had a strap. I never ever put on my back unless I was pulling out a different weapon.
I'm going to sheath my sword before I put my shield away. That shield
absolutely.
If I take my shield and I put it on the table, okay?
Nope.
Okay, I flip it up and put my hand right through the hoop, and I grab the handle. It doesn't take 6 seconds. It takes half a second at best. And I get my sword out. Like, it's super fast. But we're also always, like, in battle-ready mode, like we are in a fantasy setting. We're not traveling. We don't have to pull it off our back. If you strap the shield to your back, yes, it takes a 6 second.
D&D 5e in 5e 2024 is 90% combat.
So when you got hit with a disarmed shield, assuming you could get your shield disarmed, you threw it right off, right? And you threw it right to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sling my arm off.
Did that take a full action for you to fling the shield off your arm? No, it took half a second.
I definitely wasn't parrying properly while I was doing it or casting spells. So probably, it would.
You just fling it and it's off your arm.
All right. Well, we're talking.
It also means like if you're in like if you are squared off with an enemy and you are trying to doff that shield, like you're not doing anything else well to defend yourself from that enemy while you're trying to like mess around with the shield. You're just not.
Yeah, we're also
you grab the handle and you're good to go. Like,
that is not true.
We're conflating real life with rules for a game. Let's not do that. Like this is rule. No.
You take any Viking shield, any fucking non-kite shield out there. You just grab the center handle.
Yes, we know.
That's it. There's no strap.
We understand that. We know it's.
But here's the thing: in 5e D&D. Shields give you +2 AC. It doesn't matter if it's a round shield, a kite shield, a hunt, whatever the fuck shield. It doesn't matter. They all give you a +2 AC. Therefore, ergo, vis-a-vis, it all takes an action to on and off. It has for 10 years now.
And those center grip shields tend to frickin' shatter.
Shattered.
Like that was anybody that used those is aware those shields are going to get broken. That's why it's a center grip, because you're going to drop it because it's not going to survive the combat.
Yeah.
It's going to be destroyed.
The armor smith at every time you make Tabaxi will disagree with you there.
I've been running this game forever. I've been playing this game forever, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone drop a shield unless it was heat metal or some shit like that. I don't think I've ever seen anyone equip a shield in combat. If you're using a shield, you're using it for the armor class bonus, and you just always have it equipped.
Yeah, and then every motherfucker forgets that they're when they're using their bow, that their shield's not equipped, and they've always been using +2 AC.
Man, if you're using a shield, you're not ever using a bow. Don't give me that.
You know what? That is true, because you know what? That is the problem. You know what? As my fighter in the game that I'm playing early, I never even pull out a ranged weapon. I just don't bother. If they're too far away,
every now and then you throw a javelin.
If I use shields, I use javelins.
Yeah,
I was watching a bunch of shorts from the guys at the Stinky Dragon podcast, and they have
podcast.
The Stinky Dragon podcast. It's a live play, bunch of comedians playing stuff. They have little animated shorts, and they had the ranger. Was basically talking about how he's always been using his ranged weapon the entire time, but he also had a long sword and a shield with him. And he got into a situation where he had to use his long sword for the first time in the entire campaign. And the DM asked, was like, "Hey, do you have your shield equipped now too?" He's like, "Oh yeah, of course I do." Well, it takes an action to don that. And he scrolls through his character sheet, and he looks at the bottom. He goes, "It's already equipped." And he goes, "But you've been using your longbow the entire campaign. You tell me you've been using your shield's been equipped the whole time too?"
Oops.
And like, one person leans over and looks and goes, "Yeah, it's been equipped the whole time, so his AC is actually too lower."
Yeah, I've played people like that.
And then the DM goes, "All right, your character takes all the damage that +2 AC would have avoided, all in this single one attack from the dragon,
and you just die."
All right, let's move on.
Back to the. We're only going to get through the Errata, the player's handbook. The DMG actually has very little, which is nice. The monster manual, I'm not going to go through all the monsters. The only other stuff that it really goes
Real
over
quick, on the monster manual, I will say is that the first release of the monster manual of 2014 had about 2 pages of changes, and this one has 25 changes. So they did pretty good with their quality control on that numbering. There's always going to be something. As a technical writer, there's always something.
I will say, like I said, DMG 2024 has 2 changes. That's it.
Yeah. They did a good job.
They did a pretty good job. Player's Handbook has notable changes, obviously, like we've already talked about. But the other ones, essentially, they go through all of the polymorphing spells and said basically, you don't keep your fucking HP after you lose the spell.
Yay!
Which is just a clarification that any DM worth his salt would have told the person who's trying to argue it no. But just because you have to put it in writing.
Yeah, sorry, you don't have the gold dragon hit points anymore.
No, you got it dispelled, asshole. It's gone.
Yeah.
They also made an addendum that said all the stat blocks that are in the back of the PHB have been replaced with the monster manual versions, which makes sense because they were different for the same monsters. Obviously, since this came out months before the monster manual, they just didn't have the stats. Grappling in the grappling entry, escaping a grapple is now called ending a grapple. Also, the following sentence has been added to the end of that subsection. In addition, the grappler can release the target at any time without using an action, which is nice. It's like ending concentration of a spell.
You can release a human being as a free action, but you can't drop a shield as a free action.
I agree.
God damn it.
Hide action 368. In the second paragraph, you have the invisible condition is now. You have the invisible condition while hidden. In the third paragraph, the condition ends on you is now you stop being hidden. It's still, you know what? Stealth in 5e is still overly complicated.
It's still stupid. Yeah.
Yep.
It's, yeah. I feel like they could have done a better job still. But
yep. We've people that argue that even though their rogue hid behind like a statue, when he charges out from it to go at the guy that's 30 feet away, that he should be hidden that whole charge.
Maybe not 30 feet, but I'll give you 10.
For example, a rogue is hidden behind and taking pop shots at a fighter. The fighter's like, I'm going to go get that guy, and he charges right up to where that guy is. It's like, no, I'm stealth. What's your perception check?
I'm invisible.
No, you're not stealth. Like, you're not hiding behind anything. He walked around the thing you were hiding behind.
Yeah. But I personally will give a rogue, if they're like within 5 or 10 feet and they're hidden and they pop out and attack someone and move like 10 feet, I'll give it to them.
I could see if it's a quick thing where you're stepping out right around the thing you're hiding on, you have time to make the attack before that.
Because
if you're having to charge across the freaking room.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. Everybody.
I can walk up behind somebody.
That's what ranged weapons are for. Assassinate the guy with a bow. Come on.
If I can walk up behind a huge line of combat and kill 17 monsters just walking down the line because they're focused ahead of them, like, I'll give you 5-10 feet outside of cover.
Yeah.
This is why rogues suck.
Rogues suck, man. I do want to play one again in 2024.
I love rogues.
I know. Chris has been on this rogue sucks for years.
They're just not. It's because it's the game isn't designed
fighters are better.
D&D is a combat game now, and rogues are skill monkeys, which are great when you're doing everything but combat.
I think actually that's why I like the rogue I play in Steve's game so much is because it's old school. I mean, he's running a 5e game, but it's really old school D&D. So 90% of our game is really just crawling around dungeons and looking for traps and investigating stuff and things like that. And I feel actually useful because I'm using all of my shit all the time.
And stepping on random symbols.
And of course, my entire party is going through another dungeon without a rogue, so they're just stepping on all kinds of shit and opening doors without any sort of hesitation.
That reminds me, when I was on my vacation this weekend, I just turned on the TV just to watch something while we were going to sleep, and they had Conan the Barbarian on, so we started watching that, and Conan recruited the thief, the Asian guy. I don't think it was the thief because that was the second movie.
Oh no, the second Conan the Destroyer. You're talking?
No. I misspoke. Yeah, it's not the thief. It's the Asian guy, whatever his name was.
Yeah, the wizard, the sorcerer.
No, not the wizard. He was an archer. Yeah. And so they try to break into the first snake temple, and they sneak up, and then there's the blonde woman that comes out, and she's got like the rope and like climbing kit and like thieves tools. She's like, "Where's all your gear?" Like, "We don't have any." He's like, "You guys are idiots." I was like, "Yeah."
Conan was not a very good thief, at least in the beginning of that movie.
You always need a good thief. You always need a good rogue. I actually found out that actress was a model before she did that movie. That was her first movie, and then she won a bunch of like Saturn awards and not a Golden Globe, but some other kind of award for acting in that film. So it was really cool.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it was one of the best.
I
still remember that my dad wouldn't let me watch the scene with the witch, but let me watch the scene where they started giving the girls to Conan. You know, like, come on, Dad, priorities here. But before we go again, I do want to shout out Game Theory again. Just popping in the store, they had a bunch of RPG books. They had a bunch of Mork Borg books.
Oh, cool! I've never seen this in a store.
Same.
Yeah, I should have picked it up. Like I was already spending a couple $100. I wasn't going to drop another 40.
Yeah,
but I did ask them if they had Pirate Borg, and they said yes, and they had tried Pirate Borg a few times. And they really liked it. They sold out of it in their store, so they're trying to order more. So I'm glad that Pirate Borg is showing around.
Yeah,
sweet.
Yeah, definitely stop by. I think I went to Game Theory North.
What city?
It was in Raleigh. Yeah,
Raleigh. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. They had a spectator size beholder figure just floating on the ceiling.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I reached up and put my hand in its mouth and like checked it for dust. It was full of dust. You know, like beholders' mouths are.
Yep. All right, Christian, do you have anything?
No, he never does.
Yeah, that's because
I had to take over the whole promoting the podcast thing because he doesn't want to do it.
Because we talk for 2 hours.
I think I have stuff I can talk about next time. We've gone on pretty long.
All right. Anybody else have anything to wrap us up?
Just going on about game stores. Lake Geneva Games that we stopped by. Do you guys know who owns that?
No.
Alex Gygax. One of Gygax's other sons.
That's cool. Oh, I finally got the postcard. Like I got my postcards delivered, but I was missing the Dritz one that I sent to my wife, and it finally came like 4 weeks later. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, mine took more than 2 weeks to get there. To get here.
Well, you live in Alabama. Your mail's delivered by a pigeon.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's.
He just holds in his little talons, one postcard at a time, one letter at a time.
My
God. All right,
that's a good time to end on.
Yeah, I think we're done here. Yeah.
Let me tell you about pigeons.
Yep. Nope. Bye.
Bye.